What up? What up? What up? We got an awesome exclusive, all access exclusive interview with a head coach for CalState Fullerton, Dedrick Taylor. D, what up, man?
Not much, man. It's a pleasure having me, and super thankful for you and what you're going through and all that stuff. To have us on, it means a whole lot. So
Yeah,
thank you.
appreciate it. Yeah, we're live from the hospital. We just had baby. We got good things going on there and exciting times. But more importantly, we got some exciting times going on with Coach Taylor. So we got win number 100.
Yeah,
which is the century mark. It's a thing to celebrate. Going almost viral, pretty much on the internet. We know it's not about that, but talk about what that does mean for you, for the program, and then some of the other celebrating things within the program that maybe people are forgetting while they're looking at that 100.
yeah. I think the biggest word that I would use with the 100 wins would be validation. You know, in a lot of ways, it's validation for our program, and it's more important that the people within the program get the type of recognition that they deserve. You know, I'm more excited about the relationships and the bonds that are being built or have been built, you know, en route to 100 wins, which is a public, public acknowledgement of success, and something that people use publicly as a barometer to say you've had success. And, you know, to me, I look at the fact that we have a 92% graduation rate. 92% of the young men that have come through here have earned their degree. I look at the fact that, you know, we've been a part of producing 26 pros in 7 years. You know, I look at the fact that the relationships that are being built en route to getting to 100 wins. That's way more exciting to me and way more pleasurable is where I get excited about the 100 wins.
Right. Talk about 26 pros. Develop You is the hashtag. Develop You is the anthem for the team. I know that the graduation rate, I think you said, say that again for me, Coach.
It's 92%. So
92%.
I think it's something like 22 out of 24 or something like that, 23 out of 25, something like that. I'm not a math.
Which we wish we celebrated as much as we do 100 wins.
No doubt.
Talk about the Develop You and 92%, and talk about the 26 pros and what Develop You means to CalState Fullerton.
You know, it really is our mantra for our program, and it's become our hashtag. But it really describes our program in one word, basically, and it's developing. And, you know, not only developing on the court, which has its own entity, but developing also off the court, you know, going to class and doing things the right way. And that doesn't mean that we expect all A's, because we don't. I firmly believe in the fact that if you go to class every day and give your best effort, and sometimes that's a D, hey, we're going to salute that, or we're going to be proud of that. And we're going to accept that and embrace that and acknowledge that and move on as a part of the process. And we're going to learn from it. But that's something off the court in terms of how you act, how you respond to people. That's something that we spend an inordinate amount of time working with our guys, and then on the floor in terms of the, you know, learning about themselves in the weight room, because the weight room is a critical part of your development. And so teaching them the proper way to train their body. Also, you know, from a basketball standpoint, the holistic approach in terms of learning the game itself. But then there's also a part of that game that includes you and your talents and your skill sets and learning what they are, and then being able to develop them and learn how to impact the game with those skill sets. And so there's a lot that goes into the Develop You hashtag or mantra. And it's something that we're proud of, you know, so that we can use the fact that we have a 92% graduation rate. And there's a reason behind that. You know, it's not just to say that. There's a reason behind the success that we see publicly. And we're proud of that.
Right. Rightfully so. Talk about, Coach, we'll get to the exciting viral topic outside of your 100 wins right now, which is this idea of the legacy continues. You know, we saw Mike Boynton got a monster win last night. He has the shirt on. They celebrated it big time on national television. I believe the head coach at Butler had his on and during one of their games. And talk about what came up with the idea. Tell people what the shirt is. What does it mean? You're doing it during Black History Month. It's obviously much bigger than basketball with you. So share a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, I think it's an idea that was created, sitting on my couch. But it's an idea that came about just because I vividly remember as a youngster being in my home and watching Big Monday, and featuring John Thompson. And one of the things that I remember is that they never really talked about, or at least I didn't hear them discuss his X's and O's. They talked about his mentorship, his leadership, the way that he treated his players and the way that he treated other people, and what that meant to him and his legacy. And so we wanted to honor that. And not only that, we wanted to honor some of the other Black coaches, Division I coaches that came before us or before me, that I stand on their shoulders. George Raveling, John Chaney, obviously, who we lost, and Will Robinson, who's the first ever Black head coach at Illinois State. Honoring some of those guys and appreciating what they've done, but also understanding and accepting the fact that the legacy does continue, and the responsibility is now on us to create our own version of what those guys stood for. The fact that John Chaney and John Thompson took their team off the floor during the middle of the game to send a message to the world, not to just themselves or not to just the people around them, but to the world. And it was a message that was sent that's bigger than basketball. It's about the well-being of humanity. And, we're in a time that's important to me. That's important to us. And I think as we saw Coach Boynton get his win last night, the shirt is important, but I think the method behind the shirt, the methodology behind the shirt is super important in terms of, it gets people to have conversation about the fact that Black head coaches deserve this opportunity. For instance, Terrence Johnson at Texas State, he gets the opportunity. And not only that, he takes a really desolate, bad situation and they win the league.
Right.
The head coach at Wichita State takes a really bad situation and he shows what that situation can become under his leadership.
Right.
They're they're in first place in their conference. And we were discussing off the air, they have one of the biggest, if not the biggest win over a ranked team in their conference that they've ever had. Right. And so again, I would love for the discussion to take place, but the action to take place also that demonstrates the head coach should have the same opportunity to mimic and coach some of the same demographic wise, the players that he coaches and that he recruits. And that's really the essence of the shirt and the essence of the concept. And like most things, you try to do good and do right, and you forget some people, you forget, you leave some people off. And I've got to call a coach this morning, Richie, and apologize to him because we made a mistake. We didn't put him and include him on the shirt, and then that's never the intent. But I definitely want him to know publicly that I apologize for that, and we'll fix that. We'll make it right. But again, we're talking about a concept that is important to all of us because not only impacts what the past represents, but it also represents the future of what our responsibility is and how we are supposed to take care of it, so to speak. And it does lead to not our personal legacy, but the legacy of Black head coaches amongst Division I programs.
Right. Yeah, Coach, you covered a lot there. And I think it's there's a lot of stuff that happened over the pandemic, right? Where a lot of Zooms, a lot of connectedness, a lot of people wanting to help other people. In particular, I felt like personally, I can say this, I felt like us as Black coaches were more unified maybe than ever before. And it started before George Floyd, but I think even the George Floyd added on to it, particularly for me, even doing this platform. Alvin Brooks has a lot to do with that and just what he started. And I call him a pioneer with Be Ready, right?
Yeah.
Going even before that. And there were several others that have done great things. His sticks out to mine. But going backwards for me, 3 years ago now, I went to California to CalState Fullerton's campus and participated in the think tank 2 years in a row. So the think tank is also, the T-shirt to me made me go back to the think tank. And the think tank, I would love for you to touch on that and how you came up with that idea and what has that done for the coaches that had that experience? And I can talk about my own experience, but would love for you to kind of share, what is the think tank? How did you come up with it, and how has that impacted college basketball from your viewpoint?
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that you give us credit for creating the think tank, and yeah, we kind of put some ideas and some thoughts behind it, but it's really a part of our experience. I was a part of a group some time ago called the Villa Seven, that was started by Mike Ellis and Norwood Teague, who at the time were the athletic directors at VCU. And so what they did is they took, the top 50 BCS level assistant coaches who were ready to move, or who they thought were going to move over to become head coaches. And they put them through 2 days of training. And they talked about calling your first time out. They talked about community service. They talked about all of the things that not necessarily are on public display, that kind of go behind the scenes to either getting a job or managing the job, your first 100 days on the job, and so on and so forth. And so that concept always stuck to me. So when we got this job here at CalState Fullerton 7 years ago, there were a lot of Black assistant coaches that were asking our assistant coaches, hey, how does D do this, and how does he do that, and what does he think about this? And I was just like, hey, let's get in a room as soon as the season is over, and let's just talk. Let's communicate. Let's talk about some of the things that you guys have questions about. And no, I don't have all the answers, but again, it's the conversation that I was excited about. And that is literally how Think Tank became what it is today, and really it's an opportunity for us to have conversations about moving over from being an assistant to a head coach, or being able to move from a mid-major to a high major as an assistant, and networking and what it entails, the conversations that you need to have, what about the conversations you need to include, buzzwords, things of that nature, managing stress. We brought someone in talking about that, the financial piece that is, there's this assumption that college coaches make all this money, and some of them do. But I'm in that other category. We ain't figured it out yet. We don't make a lot of money, but how to manage your money and those things, because that's important.
Right.
It's just as important as calling a timeout with 6 seconds left to go. Right. You have the ball. Your best player's out, fouled out. And now how do you create an opportunity for your group to score to win the game?
Right.
Those are important things. But if you don't talk about it, and you don't have some type of ideology as to what that is and what that looks like, the first time you get in that situation, you probably pee your pants. And right. And so we've grown the think tank and tried to create networking opportunities and conversation pieces around certain subject matters. And we've taken the concept of Villa 7 and moved it over to the think tank. And the think tank is different, in my opinion, just simply because it's about Black coaches,
right?
And an opportunity for us as Black coaches to get together and have some conversation among ourselves. And the best thing about it is everybody's asking me, am I going to do it on Zoom and this and that and the other? And I was like, nah, I'm not, because the best thing about it personally is the intensity of the honesty and the face-to-face interaction. It blows my mind. I mean, and again, because of the think tank, or due to the think tank, I think it has produced 3, maybe 4 head coaches. David Patrick got his job, and in the room when he was doing a panel discussion was
the AD that hired him.
No doubt. And she leaned over to me and said certain things regarding him. And that relationship was forged right there. On our staff, then John Smith, who's now the head coach at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, Danny Sprinkle, who happens to be a black white guy. Should I say that? He's at Montana State. And so, different positions and different things have happened because of the think tank. And again, it's what we believe in. And what we believe in is develop you. How can you get better? How can you be better today than you were yesterday? And then how can you be better tomorrow than you were today? And if that concept can drive you, and if it can motivate you or inspire you to get up and to work, that's a big word in my vocabulary, like work. What do you mean by work? What describe that work? And And that's something that we can get into later. But that's really, really important to me, and it drives the concepts that we believe in.
Yeah, I love so many things you said, and I think the part two things I'll say. One, it's about more than just basketball. So when you to become a head coach, there's so much stuff around it. There's so many cheat codes that if you don't have any idea, so for you to lead an idea think tank where people can get the access was unbelievable. Even for me as an assistant, I mean, it helped me move from being in the Southland to Fresno to UTEP and kind of going through that process and help many others. So I think the part just having the understanding of what is required and what are the unwritten rules that maybe you don't get to learn or maybe you don't get to know. So I call them the cheat codes. And then secondly, when you get in that seat, like you said, there's coaching basketball. We all pretty much know that. Like you'll figure that out. You'll figure out how to run an offense. You'll figure out what defense you want to run, but it's the other stuff.
No doubt.
So many blind spots in being the CEO of a program of a company, which not necessarily is the part where we learn. We almost learn like, okay, you're a recruiter. Prove you're more than just a recruiter.
Yeah.
Start doing all this stuff to prove you're more than a recruiter. Was like, well, wait a minute. There's a whole nother administrative side and managing staff and understanding budgets and understanding community and how to connect to parts of campus, being a campus partner, all these other things. So I think it was an empowering event year after year that you guys did. And I think if you did do it on Zoom, it just takes away from the vulnerability and the authenticity of it. So I'm glad to hear you say that you aren't going to do that. Let's talk about coaching tree. You talked about a couple guys that work for you. Let's talk about your staff now. Let's also talk about your guys that have moved on to head coaches, which is probably never happened in that conference.
Yeah.
History to have a coaching tree. That's normally what happens at the high major level. But for you to create that, I think is a tribute to you as a leader of men. I think it's bigger than just basketball. I think even what you've done or initiated with the shirt and the legacy continues is so much bigger than just basketball. So talk a little bit about your staff now and your former staff that's now head coaches.
No, I'm super excited about the possibility of them being successful. You know, John Smith is I think he's doing the right things and learning the right way. You know, year two, if you look at any head coaching record, year two is always tough for a lot of different reasons. But then you look at Danny Sprinkle, year two for him is you know, he's having a great deal of success. And I think they're two different opportunities. But more importantly, for us to give two guys that gave to us so much an opportunity to run their own program, I think it says a lot about who they are, and it says a lot about what we're trying to do. And you used the word, and I think it's a really important word. It's access. You know, access to that information of how to run your program and how to lead yourself to success, and the ability of learning through some of the bad times. And those times to me are really, really important. Those times are when you grow as a person, you grow as a coach, you grow as a friend, you grow as a father, during those moments where nobody's really around. You know, it is you and just you and God, and you guys are having a decision or a conversation, and you're wondering, and I'm now talking about myself, and I'm wondering, you know, hey, am I good enough to make this work? Am I saying the right things to this group? And so because of that, I think we've been able to give access to other programs out there that want to achieve a certain level of success, and they're driven by that. And you called it a coaching tree. I don't know what that means. I'm super excited for the fact that, you know, we have a staff that comes together, and in, I think it's 6 years, or maybe, yeah, I think it's 6 years, we are part of them getting or becoming head coaches, you know, from CalState Fullerton, or from this level, so to speak. Like you said, you know, most coaches, they go to a different level. They might go to the Mountain West, or they might go to the Pac-12. Well, we just produced or a part of guys, they're now head coaches, you know, and the conversation even nowadays is completely different than some of the conversations that we had as a group. You know, the conversations and what we talk about and the things that we discuss The terminology that we use, it's totally different now when you're speaking head coach to head coach. We've been a part of that. And so, again, it says a lot about what we believe in. And what we believe in is the development of people and giving them the opportunity to be better. But I think also being a part of it, being a part of them getting better. That's what's exciting to me. That is what we're here for. That's our mission, so to speak. Now, it's a little bit different because Coach Smith is in our league, and I want to beat the hell out of him
Right.
the first game.
Right.
When we play each other, and I tell him that, and I know he feels the same way. And that's just the two guys that are competitors.
Right.
But when we're not playing each other, man, you can look at our phone logs. We talk almost every other day. Coach Sprinkle, we talk almost every other day. Again, it shows the bond and the relationship that we built and that we have, and the trust factor amongst each other is super, super important. So we're excited for those guys and anxious to see what they are and what they can become. And I tell them every day, like, hey, don't forget about the little fellow. Like I would like to work for you guys now.
No doubt.
Another foot. So, we're excited for them and excited about what they can do and what they can become and their program, what they're building at their respective schools. It's exciting to watch and appreciate. I always tell them, appreciate the bad times, write it down, right? Because you are going to learn so much, and then you will be in a place to use the word validation.
Right. Yeah. You think about the Chicago Bulls before they got to their pinnacle. They ran into their nemesis, and then they broke through. You think about any team, as they're going through their journey. It's the same with coaches as you're building a program. Again, so many great things you touched on. So in your staff now, let's talk about part of the reason why they wanted to hire those men. Let's just be honest. You guys won. You went to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Won at the highest level, which is the peak of success. Really hard to do in one bid leagues, as we all know. Really hard, period. So you had that level of success. You have one member on your staff that started as an ops and has worked his way to an assistant. Then you have a former player who was in a top 10 program, top 5 program in Nevada comes. Then you have a former head coach that also was in Nevada that comes there with you. Talk about your current staff now and what makes those guys great as far as what you're doing now with Develop You.
Oh man, it just I can't say enough. In particular about our staff now. Anthony Santos is a guy that he inherited us. He was already here when we came, and because of his experience here, we said, hey man, like we'd be stupid not to keep him around. And honestly, I say this all the time, and people think I'm funny, and I have a weird way of using words to describe how I feel emotionally, but literally, if I don't see him or he's not around or I don't know where he is, like literally I can't breathe without this guy. Like I can't. He has all of my passwords but more importantly, he has all of my trust and all of my belief that he's going to steer us the right way. And so yes, that's a lot of responsibility, but it's earned, and I trust him. The current guy, Rob Zooey, he's in the ops position. And I told him probably like 6 weeks ago, I said, hey man, like when you walk out of practice, or if I can't visibly see you, I get nervous. It makes me feel like, okay, something's wrong because I can't see him. So those are the trust factors and the beliefs that we've built with those guys. And then we have 2 former players who really, and I say former players, like I was a part of their playing career. A long time ago. They like to make fun of it and use it. And I had hair, and now I don't have hair. It doesn't grow in certain spots in my head, but that's a whole nother story. But to have 2 former players on your staff, and then the other thing that's interesting is that nobody on our staff, I think Gus may be 38. The rest of the guys are 30 or below. And to me, I get super excited about that because they have the necessary energy. They have the necessary work ethic. They bring just a certain type of experience. And again, when you're recruiting a guy, there's nothing better than to have former players tell your story or tell them stories about how they can get better. and be examples of the relationship after you play. And so those two guys to come from two top 10 programs, or not two, but come from a top 10 program. Gus and Dunson were together at Nevada, and Coach Musselman moved on to Arkansas. And these two guys literally are blowing up my phone saying, "Hey, Coach, if you'll have me, I want to come." And I'm like, "What?
Hey, what?
Crazy." But it's the most refreshing thing. And I'll tell you where it really takes place. Like when we put practice together as a group, and we'll talk about whoever scout and these things. And my whole thing with them is just like, hey, you want to do that? Or you think we need, how can we rep that? You create it. How can we show our guys that you create it? Then not only you creating it, but we'll talk about it, but then you put it on the floor.
Wow.
You put it on the floor. Like it's the weirdest. It's not weird. It's what we know. Yeah. I was afforded the same type of opportunity under Herb Sendek. Like Herb would be walking laps in our practice while I was presenting the scout or doing the defense. Like I would think he wouldn't even be paying attention.
Right.
But he knew exactly what was going on. And literally it's the same thing. I won't say anything. Probably the first 20, 30 minutes of practice. I give that time to those guys to be coaches, to work on their relationships with individual players, to work on their presence on the floor, to work on their presence with the guys and how they say things. And I watch them. Sometimes they get upset at the guys because they are not giving what they want, you know, and it's just a part of the emotional dichotomy that you go through as a coach in the course of practice. You know, say you have 2 hours of practice. I mean, it's weird, man. You could be excited, you'd be laughing and joking, and then the next minute you cussing them out, telling them they are not doing it right. And so there's a lot of, but it's really funny to watch the assistants go through these different types of emotions. And I'm like, hey, how does that feel? feel weird, huh? But what it does is it shows their level of buy-in. It shows their commitment, because everybody wants to be perfect. There's no such thing as perfect, or there is one guy that we know that is perfect. And I had to learn this probably 2, 3, 4 years ago about striving for perfection is progress. Don't try to be perfect.
Right.
But the progress towards perfection will lead you to a result that you will like. And literally, I carry that like that's on my phone. That's on my phone.
I love it.
And so every time I look at it, it's that important to me because I'm a control freak, I guess. I'm a perfectionist. So that's how I operate. But I have to remember, like, you're never going to be perfect.
Right.
Doesn't mean that you can't strive for it.
Right.
But as you get closer to it, that's progress.
Yeah. And I think that goes to the develop you, right? It all kind of comes back to that concept of develop you. You don't have guys not only get head coaching jobs are really hard to get, but to get it from a place like CalState Fullerton and not Cal, right, or UCLA is kind of unheard of. So not only to get it, but then to have the level of success that those guys are having and experiences says a lot about the development process. So I'm sure the reason why they were calling to blow you up is like, I want to get that plan you had those guys on.
Those are the conversations that we have. And the one thing I'll say with this, like I've done this, and I'm not saying it's the end all be all and you got to do it, but as an assistant, everywhere that I've been, I've always had this notebook. And in this notebook, I have, and I think it was developed really, really well at Arizona State because we had the resources. And so I was friendly with one of our graduate managers. And for 2 years, I was able to be with him. And we had all these side conversations. We developed our own relationship. But, you know, on the floor, I could be having a thought or I could see something. And I would, hey, go stick this in the notebook. I'd write it down. Hey, go stick this in the notebook. And then every year we go back and we clean up that notebook. We put things in its proper place. But during the course of the year, just put it in there. Just put whatever you're thinking down on paper and put it in the notebook. And then afterwards, you are trying to organize yourself. And so that became the manual, so to speak, that we used when we first got here. And that's something that is really, really important to me. It's very important to you, to your own individual growth. But if you say you want to be a head coach, well, what are you doing to prepare yourself to become that? And that's an area that you can tangibly do those things. Now, it's not to say that those ideas you're going to do your first year or your seventh year, like that manual changes. It changes. It doesn't look like in year 7 or year 8, it doesn't look like year 1. It's completely different. But year 1 has its own entity. It's its own deal. You're building. Year 7, you're trying to sustain. You're trying to get there again. And so that manual looks different and you highlight different things, but it's important to have a plan of development. If you don't have a plan, you're going to find yourself, constantly, in my opinion, you're constantly changing to trying to adapt to catch up, so to speak.
Right.
Versus, hey, this is our plan. Everybody's on the same plan. We're organized. This is, we got to deal with that. Okay. Organized. We're going to deal with that.
Right.
With the unexpected, dealing with those things. And it's weird. And I always joke and I laugh and I don't know if I probably am not going to say that, but one of them, yeah, that manual is super, super, super important.
So it goes to the idea of operating in crisis management, where you're always trying to fix stuff at the last minute versus that preventive maintenance, getting ahead of things. Because part of development also is having a plan to develop.
No doubt.
Coach, you had a plan under Herb Sendek, who has an enormous tree, which we could have a whole probably session just on that alone. So shout out to Herb Sendek.
Yeah, and happy belated birthday. It was his birthday yesterday.
Yeah, okay, happy belated. I love it. You got a good zodiac sign. My daughter was just born, so you got
no doubt.
So she's following in good footsteps. Tell us this. Let's talk about Fullerton real quick. 2 things. So you guys have been in the tournament. You got these guys going to be head coaches. You got your 100th win. There's these milestones, 26 pros, 92% graduation rate. All these success stories is being built there. What's something that you would want people to know about you as a coach that maybe they don't know? And then what's something you'd want to know about your program, CalState Fullerton program or university, that they may not know because maybe they just hadn't heard, or maybe they didn't hear it straight from you, or they're not in the in-home visit, so they don't get that spiel. Tell us something along those lines.
I think that's a really good question. And I'm going to answer the latter part of your question first. About our program, I think one of the better parts is two things. The location. Like, you can say Southern California or Los Angeles and any part of the world, and people can resonate with that. They know where that is. They don't have to look for it. They don't have to pull out their smartphone and say, oh, geographically it's local. They know this. And we use that to our advantage.
Absolutely.
There's something to be said that you are 10 minutes from, oh, you don't know where it is? Oh, you know where Disneyland is? Okay, we're 10 minutes from Disneyland. You don't know where we are? You know where the Staples Center is, where the world champion Los Angeles Lakers play, right?
Right.
We're 30 minutes away from that. So that gives you, a little bit of a idea as to how we use it, the location. I mean, we're in our school is located in one of the richest areas in the country. And that's important. So that's something that people may not know. We use location as a part of the recruiting tool.
Right.
Another thing that I always tell our staff, and it's probably a more conversation that I always have with them. I said, when I die, there's a little dash between the year that you're born, which is a long time ago, and the year that you die, which is probably next year, or I die is probably next year. There's a little dash in between those. And what I would love for that dash to say, what I would love for people to resonate about me and our program is that I'm going to give you everything that I possibly have to help you get better.
Amen. Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
Don't say anything else. Don't ask. I'm going to give you everything, and I've committed to, and because this is probably another subject, but I had a brain tumor. And we had the brain tumor removed June 11th, 2020. And so everybody says COVID is the worst thing to ever happen. And it is desolate. It's a bad situation. But for me, the outlook and my perspective on COVID is completely different. It saved my life. It literally saved my life. If it wasn't for COVID, I don't know that I would have taken the time for myself to go and see a doctor and for them to tell me, hey, you're suffering these headaches, coach, because you have a tumor on your brain.
Wow.
We need to get it out. And not only do we need to get it out, but we need to get it out now. So I checked in the hospital on Monday and had surgery on Thursday. And as I was laying there to prepare for the surgery, there are 2 words that came to mind. One was love. I want to act in a space and out of an area of love, because there's so much hatred, there's so much darkness, there's so much bad stuff that we see on a day-to-day basis. But I intentionally act from a space out of love. Now, doesn't mean that I'm always right. Doesn't mean that when I do get cut off and driving and I don't want to say a couple words, we acknowledge that, we embrace that.
Yeah, right.
That's all a part of love.
Right.
Sometimes you have to love hard.
Right.
Sometimes you're telling a person maybe not what they want to hear, but what they need to hear to help them get better.
Because you love them.
Yeah, no doubt. And the other word that came to mind, and again, God gave it to me. Let's not make any mistake about that.
Right.
Laying in my hospital bed on my back with a tumor in my head, and my family can't be there because of the COVID circumstances. So I'm laying in this hospital bed by myself under an extremely stressful situation, and I have this calm about me. Like I'm like telling the doctor, "Hey, hurry up, man? Like I got stuff to do." And I'm like this close to death, and I'm telling the doctor, "Hey, dude, can we hurry this thing up?
Can we speed this up,
man? Like stop screwing around here." And so I also want to operate out of a space of how can we take whatever situation that we're dealt and be productive.
Mm-hmm.
How can we make this situation or make the best out of this situation and be productive? And so on one hand, you have love, and the other hand, you have productive. And those are the spaces that I've chosen to operate simply because of the COVID. And what COVID did is obviously it allowed the surgery to happen, but it kind of cleared things up and it calmed me down and said, "Hey, sit down, young fella.
Right.
We're not going upstairs for 7 or 10 days. Like lay down on the couch and let's have a conversation." And so out of that conversation, those two words are near and dear to me. And so what I said I was going to do is kind of respond out of love and find a way to be productive in any space that I'm in.
Right.
And that's a part of giving you, whoever it is, my best. Whatever my best is, I'm going to give it to you. And if it's not enough, hey, what do you want me to do? It's my best.
Right.
If it helps you and it is good, hey, awesome. It's my best. But at the end of the day, you can walk away from our program. You can walk away from an exchange with me and say, you know what? That dude gave me his best.
I love it.
And that's all.
Yep. Yeah, you touched on a lot, man. First of all, it's not going to be tomorrow. You said that. It's not going to be tomorrow. So let's get that out the way first. Tony Dungy, man, I had a book I read of his Uncommon Faith, the Uncommon Path of Significance. And he talked about in that book, beginning with the end in mind. And if you think about your tombstone, similar to what you said, instead of the dash, he said, what's the 3 things that you want people to say about you? Because they're going to say 3, most of the time, 3 things, right? Yeah. What are those 3? And so when you begin with the end in mind, and the cool thing too, like we did marriage counseling, me and my wife, before we got married, and they said the same thing. Yeah. What do you want your spouse, kind of morbid, like you said, but what do you want your spouse to say about you if this was to happen? And then we begin with that. Now you know what the end you want it to look like, so you can be intentional every day. So I love shared that. Appreciate you opening up with that. That was super big time. Those that don't know you, they're getting a real treat because this is Dedrick Taylor all day, every day, twice on Sunday.
This is the other thing that they probably can put on my tombstone is I am brutally honest. I've learned that from doing things like this and from other media people that have told me, hey, if you want to know what he's thinking, he's just going to tell you. Just you name the place and time and make sure you're ready because he's going to tell you. And that's something that, honesty is really, really important to me.
Yeah.
And I give that to other people because that's what I want in return. Like I had a conversation with an athletic director and I said, don't try to sugarcoat the feedback.
Right.
Punch me right in the face with it. Like, hey, you suck.
Right.
Here's why you suck, and here's how you can get better. I can grasp those concepts. I can understand that. Now, most people can't, or there are some people that cannot. They don't want to hear it that way. But me I'm like, man, hey, listen here. Smack me right in the face with the honest truth, as brutal as you need to say what you need to say, because I'm not necessarily going to
be infatuated with how you said it,
Right.
but I'm going to be driven by what you said and allow myself to get better to give to others.
Right.
That's me. That's why I'm driven by honesty and trying to tell, hey man, like smack me in the face, treat me like a 5-year-old, explain it to me as though I'm who I am. I'm not very smart. Break it down.
I love it. We got a few comments I'm gonna get to real quick and share. We got a let's see, Creative Coaching Podcast. The shirt goes real deep. Great stuff from a great man. So Mike Lopez, shout out to him, showing love. We got Justin Bailey, who you know.
Yeah, my man.
This has been great thus far. Appreciate you both. Justin Bailey was on staff with you at Arizona State.
Yeah, he taught me a lot. And I'm still working on this concept of growing up.
Yeah.
I'm still working on that, Squash. I'm still trying to figure that thing out, man.
I love it. Shout out to Squash. I work with him at Lamar, one of the best, man. Absolutely. And then we got a former recruits guardian showing some love. I don't know if you remember the big fella you recruited from Hartford. She said, so glad the opportunity to meet you both on a recruiting truck. Congrats on your growth. They came down to you in Hartford.
Yeah.
They thought he was going to you and then all that stuff. And we got one more comment from Bailey. He got the LOL for us. I think
to me, like honestly, like when you read those comments, they make you feel good because you give your best.
Right.
You know, and there's a faction of people out there that probably have something negative to say.
Right.
I appreciate that too.
Right.
I honestly appreciate that too, because there's growth in all of those things. Right. There's growth in good, there's growth in bad. And so Miss Hill, it's super nice to see you. Awesome that you are listening to this show, because of the two guys that are on this show, it's important. But man, that literally gives me goosebumps.
Yeah, good stuff. So James Harden, he's now, you coached him at Arizona State. You guys did some amazing things at Arizona State. You work with Scott Perry, who's head coach at Rice. You work with Scott Smith, who's a great friend of both of ours. So I work with a UTEP who's doing great things now too. James Harden, now he's with the Brooklyn Nets. People think he has a chance to win the championship. Just talk real quick. Anything, James Harden, you want to share before we go to the next topic? Because next we're going to talk about the tournament season. You guys, the NCAA tournament, you weren't a number one seed.
Yeah.
Not a number one seed now. And then you not only went to the tournament, but then the following year you went to the championship again, and we're right there to go back. So we'll talk about that because March is coming up. But talk about James Harden first.
You know, there's probably a million stories that I could tell, and I'll tell one. But I think the best thing about James and being a part of his success and allowing us or me to be a part of that, no, never did I think he'd be the third drafted player. No, never did I think he'd be as he is now. But I did think that he would have a tremendous impact at that level. And here's why: is because he is a constant seeker of making the right basketball play. And I think one thing Kyrie said, and maybe he noticed, but I think James' ability to pass is probably his best attribute. People get caught up in scoring and the numbers and again, the productivity, but his mindset is that I'm going to make the right basketball play. And one of the things that Coach D'Antoni did for him is he took him off the side of the floor and gave him the ball so that now he can see all 9 guys in front of him. And he's smart enough to be able to manipulate the defense to get what he wants, which is, again, the right basketball play. Hey, Tucker, come up here, screen, get this switch so that your guy, who's probably not a great defender, is going to switch on to me, and then I'm going to take on him. I'm going to take him not to score, but to bring help. You got to help. Clinton Capella's guy is going to help. So, boom, here it is right at the corner of the board. That's his mindset. And that's what he's driven by. And one area that, like, I was watching him play the Lakers, and they beat the Lakers the other night, which I'm not happy about, but it is what it is. He catches the ball. The level of consistency with his game, his offensive game, is just blows you away. Like, he catches the ball on his dominant pivot foot every single time. When you watch James, he always catches it on his right foot. He catches the ball and he gets on his right foot. And then all of a sudden, he's this magical magician with operating out of that space, whether it's on the side, whether it's in the middle. But that's to me, those are two things coaching him. So I'll share one story. When James was a freshman, he's 17 years old. He's a 17-year-old freshman. And so we play this. I'm at Arizona State, and we play this school South. Yep. You know who they are, right? big rivalry. Like of a rivalry that I won't even say their name. That's how much, and I mean, right. I'll not say their name, right? The school South, we're playing a big rivalry game. Towards the end of the last possession of the game, Coach Sinda gives the ball to James on the right side of the floor so that he can go to the middle of the floor with his left hand. So it's a Texas guy, and I can't think of his name. I just saw him probably 2 years ago. I was at a church, and he's now he's an officer down there. But anyway, gosh, I wish I could think of his name, but I can't. So he's a senior. He's guarding James.
It's not Juwan McClellan, is it?
That's who it is. That's who it is. Appreciate that. That. So Juwan's guarding it. Now Juwan's gonna be pissed because of now I'm probably.
No, that's all right. Texas roots. I'm just representing for my people. You know what I mean?
So he is guarding James, and he's sitting like they're in front of our bench on the right side. So he's sitting so far on James's left hand to where like literally all James has to do is go right and lay it up and win the game. But he doesn't do that. Literally, I can hear James talking to Juwan and telling Juwan, "Hey, you realize I'm gonna go left, right?" This is their conversation as time is winding down. As the seconds are like it's 10, 9, 8. James is telling him, "I'm gonna go left. You realize that?" This is what he's saying to him. You realize I'm gonna go left, right? You realize that I'm gonna do it right now. And he takes off and he jabs right. Juwan jumps below him on his right hand, and now he exposes the floor going left. James goes to the rim, lays it up, and won. We win the game. And that moment, I knew this monkey is a star.
Right.
This dude right here, he got it. He's 17 years old, and he's talking to this guy like that. That told me he's very, very well aware of what he's doing and what's to come. And what's to come is, what we saw the other night, and his ability to score when he wants. Kyrie made this comment, which to me is one of the greatest compliments you can give to a guy. He said, "James is the point guard.
Right.
I'm going to let him have the ball, and I'm going to run around because he makes it easier for people. All you got to do is run around. He's going to get you the ball, and not only he's going to get you the ball, like FedEx and UPS, they deliver packages, right? They give you stuff. And I saved this comment for Ramon Sessions because I think he's better than UPS and FedEx. But James is going to deliver the ball to you in a place where all you got to do is either catch it and dunk it, catch it and lay it up, catch it and shoot it.
Right.
There are very few players, in my opinion, that deliver the ball that way to you.
Yep.
Most of them, they pass you out of a scoring opportunity versus pass you into a scoring opportunity. And to me, to understand that concept, but then do it time and time again, man. Now we've spent a lot of time talking about him offensively, and that's what he is.
Right.
We'll leave it at that.
I'll say this: there's three things I think, and you touched on them, that he's really underrated at. Number one is his ability to pass.
No doubt.
His ability to pass. And it's so cool that Steve Nash is his coach, right? And D'Antoni's on the staff because D'Antoni has helped. He's one of the ones that helped unlock him, like you said, put him at the top. Now everything's open. Because his ability to score, if he was just a scorer, like people always categorize him as, he wouldn't be as effective of a player at that position because all you'd be doing is getting buckets, right?
No
and sometimes there's some isolation and it gets a little heavy, but the bottom line is he has an ability, like you said, to deliver the ball on time, on target, and make people – all you got to do is score. Do what you do well. If you're a dunker, all you got to do is dunk. DeAndre Jordan. If you're a shooter, all you got to do is catch and shoot. So his passing ability is elite. I think his basketball IQ is also very underrated, right? They think, he just scores. No, this dude really understands the game and dictates plays, joysticks on the floor as he has the ball. And then the last thing, I just think he's underrated in wanting to win. I think people just think like this dude's just about getting empty buckets. And it's not about that. I think that's why he wanted to be where he is. And I think that's why they are scary when it comes playoff time for whoever, Lakers included, because when you have those three guys that are three of the best offensive players in the world that all want to win, I think that's scary.
It's definitely scary. And I think real quick, I think health is going to play a huge part in their ability to win. Kevin Durant, getting him on the floor, Anthony Davis, getting him on the floor.
Right.
Those guys being healthy and being able to play. I think you're going to see basketball at its best if those guys are healthy.
I agree, and it'll be very entertaining to say the least. So speaking of winning, the ultimate goal of a coach is to be able to go to the NCAA tournament and win championships. Put yourself in a position in March to go dancing and make a run. Not only have you been in that position to do it twice, which is really hard to do, but you've gone and cut down the nets. Talk about how you were able to lead your team that may not have been the top seed, because I think people just assume, oh, top seed's going, check them in. And you have a team right now that's playing some of their best basketball at the right time with a lot of new pieces.
Sure.
Not like they know. So they're only getting better as it goes, because you've already talked about how much you develop. So talk about those two experiences, going to the championship game, getting to the tournament, and then how does that help you prepare for March run for right now and what could be?
Yeah, I think it's a level of validation. Obviously, we've said that word, and that's the true meaning of the tournament experience, at least for me. But in order to have success at something, in my opinion, you have to have done it before. And so, yeah, we got to the tournament and we won a game, and then all of a sudden you win 2 games, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in the championship game, and it's a different perspective. And that's one of the biggest, or one of the best recruiting proponents about the Big West is the seeds don't really matter. You have the 9th place team, and they have just as good a chance as the 1st place team. Now, it might not pan out that way, or going into the game statistically, or betting, or whatever. It might not look like that, but I guarantee you, if you ask the number 1 seeded coach who's playing the number 9 seeded team, the difference, it's not a big difference. And so I think that experience gives us a perspective of getting to those tournaments and understanding who we are, understanding your talent, understanding your skill, and then applying it to the game and impacting the game from a skill standpoint, from a talent standpoint, from an IQ standpoint, getting there and being on that platform and taking away maybe some of the emotion behind getting there. And now that you are there, and now that you've taken some of the emotion out of it, it allows you, in my opinion, to take advantage of that situation. And how do you do that? You do that, in my opinion, we've learned, you do something small that you're normally used, that when you step on the court, you can have success at doing that. Concentrate your mind on figuring out how to get that done. And then once you've done that, do it again. Then once you've done it again, then do it for a 3rd time. And now you can look at other areas in the game that you can have a positive impact, because now all of a sudden you have a level of confidence and a rhythm behind doing something small. And then you attach something else to that thing. Then you attach something else to it. And now all of a sudden you've created 3 things that confidence-wise you can do, because you've had success throughout the course of that game. And now all of a sudden it's about, can you now be consistent? And those are some of the things that we've learned, in that environment, in that setting. But quite frankly, we approach regular season games no different. The biggest thing for me as a coach is trying to provide and instill a level of confidence amongst our players, so that confidence can breed the ability for them to go make plays. Don't look at me, go make plays. If you make a mistake, I applaud that. I want you to make a mistake, but I want you to learn from it and be better for it. Keep playing. If you make a mistake and you look at me, you're probably going to come out. But if you make a mistake and you just keep playing and you make up for that mistake, I'm not going to bother you. We're not going to have a discussion. You won't hear from me. But if you do something and you're looking around for my disapproval or approval, we got a problem. Like, go play. I've already given you a level of confidence by saying you are good enough.
Right.
You are talented enough.
Right.
Not very many coaches will say, hey, if you look at me after something happens, I'm going to take you out. Most coaches say, after you do something, look at me. Right. Or they're okay with that encounter. I'm not. Like, don't look at me. I'll fight you. I'll run on the court and fight you in every game if you look at me. That's how I'm yeah. So that's what you get. You're gonna come out of the game, man. You're gonna have to fight me. So that you don't want that.
I love it. You don't want those problems.
Yeah,
I bet there's a certain level of freedom that's probably hard for you to say, but I can say from watching it on the outside, to be able to allow players to play their best basketball in a tournament setting is hard to do. And there's something to be said about being able to get to the championship game in a league that's really competitive. Like you said, it's wide open. Doesn't matter who's first, last. I think Cal Poly went one year. They may have been like a 9 seed. It's happened time and time again where you don't know who's going. And so to be able to unlock and trust is big time on you guys' part as a staff. Going back to the shirt, so wrapping up, closing up a little bit, there's this other side. We talked about honesty, right? You said for you, love, production, honesty. And there's an innovation of you and your heart and wanting to develop and give that came up with this concept. What do you say to the people who maybe don't understand the celebration of Black people, right? You're putting names of Black head coaches on this shirt. And I think you said Richie McKay may have been one of the ones that's not out. So shout out to Richie McKay.
Yeah, no, it's what Richie at Southern Alabama.
Richie Riley.
Coach
Riley, who is in first place on that half of the Sun Belt and has won 8 in a row. So shout out to Richie Riley. So you have this shirt and this concept and this, and the legacy continues is the theme of the shirt. So for those that are on the side of just not understanding, like, well, why are we celebrating that? You know, obviously Black History Month. I guess just what would you say from an educational standpoint or even just an inside view of what would make that be something that needs to be celebrated in this type of way? And obviously the other coaches understand it. They're rallying behind it. They're wearing the shirts. They're taking pride in it. And we lost some pioneers, like you said, at the game. But what would you say so people can understand it fully? Because people that may not be in your skin and my skin, and I haven't sat in a head coach seat, but I have been a college basketball coach for a number of years, so I get it. What do you say to those people who haven't walked in those shoes that are trying to make sense of it so they can maybe celebrate it too as well?
That's a great question. And I'll put it this way. Let's take basketball out of it, right? Let's remove basketball and let's just talk about race for a moment in time. And I know that's a polarizing term, but I want to use race. And I want to use myself as an example to answer your question. And I'll answer it this way. Black history is not a month to me. It's an opportunity for the rest of the world to highlight some of the things that are important that Black people have given to society. But what's interesting to me growing up, I learned in history that these inventions were, or these things that we rely on on a daily basis, they weren't necessarily given, Black people weren't given the credit for that. And so I had to relearn history. And in relearning that history, I did learn this. There are 14 things in your house that you depend on every single day that Black people are responsible for the invention of those things. And to a lot of people, that's alarming that there are 14 things that you rely on a day-to-day basis that Black people don't necessarily get the credit that they deserve. And so that's important to me. So I had to relearn history, so to speak, and give credit where credit is due. Now, if there are white people out there that have done things, I give them credit. They did that.
Right.
But there are a number of situations that happen on a day-to-day basis, whether they're invention, whether they've happened historically, whether they're happening now. There are Black people that can thrive in, or that have thrived in those situations. And all I'm saying is me as a Black man, I'm educating myself on the true form of his story.
Right.
I'm educating myself on that, and I'm paying homage to that. And then I choose to be productive because of that, I choose to carry on their legacy by trying to find a way to invent something and be a part of something that has been invented. Be a part of telling the story the way I perceive it. And it's my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But my perspective is also rooted in truth. It's true that there are over 14 elements that we depend on in your house every single day that we have access to, that we use, and we don't pay homage to the people that have created that. And that's all I'm saying. And hopefully that outlook can give you a different perspective.
Right.
And I'm not telling you to be out, waving the black flag. And I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that the same energy that you promote and get excited about your history,
right,
have the same image, have the same energy, not the same image, have the same energy towards the same history that we celebrate. Because at the end of the day, the root of the word is his story.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, there's just such an element of when you're for, let's take athletics, right? You talked about a rivalry when you coached James Harden that you wouldn't even see the other teams. Right? So there's a concept in sports sometimes that if you're for Arizona State, you cannot be for that other team.
Right.
When it comes to life as people, we all just want to have a certain level of respect and be able to celebrate who we are, because it's a part of John Thompson. If he wasn't as great as he was, that you would not be probably sitting in that seat.
No doubt.
John Chaney, same thing, and many others. So part of what you're celebrating of that legacy is, in its own ways, the Jackie Robinson in baseball that paved the way for others to follow behind, right? So it's not I say this a lot, but it's not a confrontational, like we are better than, or, there's some kind of animosity. It's literally celebrating a truth.
Yeah.
Also creating this, a way to show that you're carrying the torch and you're respecting that legacy. I honor that. And I know I have a responsibility.
No
I
doubt.
know this is bigger than me, because there's somebody that's looking up to me, whether I know it or not, that I may be paving the way for. And if I do my job with this, and it's also a sense of unity where we can celebrate and others can celebrate, not in a threatened way, but just, man, I don't maybe give credit to those guys. I didn't realize that it's so disproportionate. There's so many people that don't even realize there's not very many black head coaches for the percentage of athlete that we coach, which is probably 80% or more. So the proportion is off, right?
Yeah.
And I think on the female side, sometimes they get frustrated, right? Not only the black female, but females, period, because men coach female sports. No. So there's a proportion that's off. So all those things are things that it doesn't mean you're anti if you're for. It just means we want to celebrate our history, our legacy, and carry this responsibility and do what we can to keep making it greater, right? And keep increasing opportunities. So I say that to say, and last question is continuing legacy. We talk about John Thompson. He's on the front of the shirt. The names are on the back. What is the legacy for Dedrick Taylor that you hope people understand that you want to leave behind? You talked about love, production, honesty. I know that's a part of it, but what is the legacy that you want to leave behind for your journey as when the plane is landed?
For me, I've said it already and I'll say it again. I just want to leave behind the gift of giving to others, and not giving to others for your own clout, as they say, but giving to others because it comes from a place of love. It comes from your heart. And that's what you're truly about. You are about the team, so to speak. You're about other people. And that's me. That's what I believe in. That's what I'm bought into. That's what I work for. That's what I believe. That's what drives me. It's weird. I get more excited about other people's success than I do about my own.
Yep.
Like the fact that I had surgery and, I was this close to death and blah, blah, blah. Like, that's cool to somebody else, but it makes me know, never mind. I get super concerned about if somebody else is in that situation or going through that.
Right.
I get super excited about the fact that they beat it. Man, let's celebrate in our own way. Because as you know, like you can tell a person 9 out of 10 good things, right? And tell them one thing, give them one thing that they need to focus on and maybe get better at. And people innately will focus on that one thing. They will forsake the other 9 things that you've said and only focus on that. And that becomes what they carry. And I want to be a part of trying to change that. But also understand that feedback or that negative feedback, it's necessary because it's going to go from 9 to 10 if you understand it.
Yep.
If you believe into being productive because of it. And that's how it works, man. It's all full circle. Like you're being better because the feedback, it's negative feedback or it's perceived negative. One of the guys that I believe in and that I bought into, Jason Wells, right? Big time dude.
Yeah, he is.
Big time dude.
He is.
I am bought into him like no other. Like man, the stuff that we talk about that I'm a part, I don't talk about it, I just listen. It's almost biblical. Right. And he says these things like there's your strengths, and he doesn't say weaknesses. He says your stretches, because weaknesses automatically means it's something that you're weak at. So you perceive it as negative. It's not. We're not perfect. We're never going to be perfect.
Weren't built to be that way.
Never. But there are stretches. They make us uncomfortable. So we need to acknowledge that, embrace those things, and then find a way to get better at those things.
Right.
And those are the concepts, whether it's down on the ball screen, whether it's hard hedging the ball screen, whether it's sitting at the table talking about life, it doesn't matter. Right. How are you getting better?
Right.
That's what drives me. If you want to know about me and you want to read about and I've said this 1,000,000 times to our staff and I've changed the dash, but if you want to know what I just want to be a part of other people getting better, period. So like literally when I'm gone, when I'm done, that's what I would love for my girls to understand about their father. That's what I would love for people to understand and appreciate about me, not about me, but the concept.
Right.
It's so beneficial and you can reap so many benefits because of it. But, it's like good and evil. You're always going to have them. They always exist. And the constant fight is to pursue good and accept evil, but pursue good.
Right. Yeah, they talk about the negativity bias. That's what they call that concept of only focusing on that one thing or all these negatives. You have this scale of one negative thing and 20 positive, but you're letting that scale weigh it down.
Yeah.
That one thing, that energy. And I'll say this as we wrap up, man, from the 92% graduation rate, the 26 pros, the 2 head coaches now, the NCAA tournament, the shirt, the think tank, the idea to even create the shirt, let alone get it to everybody so that they can receive a gift, right? That's pouring into other people. I think you're doing an incredible job with that legacy of service and of wanting to see the best in others and bringing it out, and even as somebody who didn't know you before the think tank and kind of felt like right, wrong, and different, like, man, this guy's kind of a celebrity, like, and then like, oh, he's talking to me. Oh, he's cool. Oh, he's asking, like, oh, he's asking about, so I think there's a part of it where you're carrying that legacy so much already. And even just seeing the few comments, there's more, and we don't have to get to all of them, but salute to you, man. I appreciate so much how you're carrying this torch to empower others and help others be successful. And here you are, could be thinking like, and so many times this happens, right? Just crab in the bucket mentality, and
no doubt
flipped it. And I love this story. And I'll tell this real quick. You had a time where you and Lamont Smith were interviewing for Arizona State, and this never happens in the business. So I got to tell the story. You're both interviewing for the same job. And the way I understand it is after you interviewed, you flipped it. Instead of making it competitive, you called him and gave him the cheat codes to the interview.
No doubt.
Both going for the same job. That never happens. And so not only does that show who you are, but then you end up getting a job. You helped him interview great, so great that the next year there's an opening and you make sure he's the guy that gets hired. So now you're teammates and you have a totally different bond. And I think that shows, that story in itself shows who you are. And to be able to do that and win is very rare, my brother. So keep it up, man. Good luck the rest of the way. Thanks so much. I'll let you have any closing words you want, man. And it was awesome having you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I appreciate this opportunity to come on live with you and be where you are in the hospital with a newborn and all that stuff. It means the world to me that you would take time out to visit with us and talk about some of the things that we're doing and highlight that to all of your listeners. And so for that, I say thank you. Like there's nothing that excites me more than being able to have this type of conversation with a guy like yourself who's striving the same way,
right.
And under the current circumstances, all of the things that we're dealing with, you find time to do what it is that you're passionate about and what you love. And so I appreciate that. And my hope is that people understand that and they too can appreciate that and they too can band together and find a way to be productive, find a way to love a little harder, and find a way, especially with what Texas endured last week and what they went through. This is a good time to find a way to love harder, and be more affectionate and not be scared to say, hey, man, I'm grown. I'm 46 years old, but I don't have a problem with saying love.
Right.
I love you. I appreciate everything that you do for us. And my hope is that people will pick up this candle and let it be their own shining light in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So with that, man, I could talk forever. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt, man. We want to keep those ripple effects going, right? That's what we want to do. We want to pay it forward, make those deposits, plant those seeds, and shine that light, man. So good luck the rest of the way. Keep staying safe. And don't say again that it may be tomorrow or it's going to be tomorrow. No more talk like that, man, especially when you were that close. We're glad you're here. You're doing what you're doing, man, and the hair looks good despite
the fact that it's not growing back in.
The fact it's not growing, you don't have to worry about that, man. But no, great stuff, man. Love you so much, and keep up the great work, man.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, proud of you, man.
All righty.